What's going on? This is Aaron Price, the CEO of TechUnited New Jersey and the co-founder of BetterFutureLabs. Super psyched for today's session, a new series we call How I AI. And I'm bringing on my co-founder of BetterFutureLabs, Justin Trugman, to join me today to talk about how he AIs, and in particular, the future of software testing. Justin, how you doing?
Doing good.
Welcome to the show.
Thanks.
Give me a little high five. Boom. Good
to see
you. So we've been building a lot of things at BetterFutureLabs, and we've learned a lot as we've gone. Today's session's around how you AI and actually a product that we've built based on that experience. But I want to tee this up so people understand exactly. And Justin, it looks like you're muted, by the way. So you've got, there you go. Exactly. The framing of why we've built this tool, Qove, that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. But talk to people about what is traditionally, how traditionally have people been running software tests, and where do we see that evolution going?
Yeah, so like way back when, for end-to-end testing, there would actually be like QA engineers that would go on a web application in some like isolated environment. So before you deploy to your customers, you deploy to like a development or staging environment. And then QA engineers would go in and click on like all of the buttons, test out all the functionality based off of how the functional and technical requirements were written for the product the engineering team is building. And that was the original method. And then more modern, there's been like test automation. So there's tools like Selenium or Playwright or Cypress. People might be familiar with some of these names. And essentially, it's where you could write scripts to automate humans clicking, but it still serves that same functionality. So a QA engineer would write some code, or a developer would write some code that says, click on this selector, enter in this into this field, and essentially replicating the functional requirements and what a human QA would do, but in a automated way. And then now there's Qove.
And now there's Qove. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Let's talk a little bit about the inspiration behind Qove. We have a business called Wave that's around creating estimates nearly instantly for the purposes of damage restoration in the construction industry, to let people take photos of a job, basically create an insurance-ready estimate very rapidly. And our entrepreneur in residence there was doing a lot of this testing. And so what did you find in that process, and what did that inspire, and where you thought maybe there's a better way?
Yeah, so essentially what was happening was we are pushing super rapidly for Wave. And while you're pushing super aggressively on a new product, there's always some bugs that sneak through. And those bugs would be caught by end users as well as our entrepreneur in residence that is working with us in the product. And we needed a way to identify those bugs before they get to our customers. So traditionally, you would hire a QA automation engineer to go and write some of the Selenium scripts for the type of bugs that we were encountering. But it's 2026. I was like, there has to be a better way. So it came to be like, okay, can we automate? Not with like traditional automation tools like Selenium or Playwright or Cypress, like I mentioned before, but can we automate using agentic AI and do it actually based off of what our customers are actually experiencing on our application? So that was sort of the genesis for Qove.
And so this emerged as a sort of a tool set, right? And then you started showing it to some friends, and what happened from there?
Yeah, so we originally had this internally only, and it still runs internally, like every day. But I started showing it to some people, and some of my friends were like, yeah, like I'm interested in that. And I got enough people saying they're interested where I asked a follow-up question of, well, would you pay for it? And there was a lot of yeses, and I'd like to try it out. So we ended up taking our internal tool and then spending a good amount of time productizing it. And that's what Qove is today.
So let's show people, if we can, kind of a little bit of why. I know you have a presentation to show. Why don't we show a little bit of why we built this, what it solves, and then we'll get to a demo.
Yeah, sounds great. So with AI, you are shipping faster than ever. And is your test suite up to that task? So it's an important thing to think about where engineers, if you're getting the most out of these coding agents and ingraining AI into your process, you should be shipping faster, but is the quality there that you need? And users don't file bug reports, they just leave. So 53% of users abandon after one bad experience. You obviously don't want that to happen to your product. So this is where Qove comes in, where we learn your user journeys, we translate them into self-healing end-to-end tests, which are those UI functional tests, and we could run them anywhere. So the premise is you install one snippet and you get a lifetime of tests. So we give you a very simple script tag. You're live in literally 2 minutes. We then observe how real users are actually using your product. And then from there, our agentic system analyzes that usage behavior, creates test cases for you and test runners that you could execute anywhere. And then the tests adapt. So as you release new features, as you onboard new users that start using your product in an innovative and creative way, we actually learn from those users and we learn how to use your new features or learn the new user journeys they're taking on your existing product. And we update your test cases accordingly. We chuck the outdated ones, we update ones that need to be fixed. And then from there, we also create new ones too. And this is how easy it is compared to the legacy method. So your designer moves a button, or they say change a button to a different type of input selector, and Playwright breaks or Selenium breaks. Qove adapts automatically because it does it based off of user intent. So instead of worrying about all the selectors, what Qove does is it looks at intent. Okay, we need to complete checkout as a returning customer. And we've seen 2,800 real user sessions this week doing that. So from there, we're going to derive these user journeys and execute them in terms of how to actually go through that process on your UI. So it mirrors the real user journeys, it survives the refactors, and it plugs into your pipeline without babysitting it. And then additionally, as user journeys shift, we learn and shift too. So this is how we use Qove. We generate a lot of our code mainly with Claude Code. And from there, we have Qove embedded in our pre-commit pipeline. So before code is actually pushed to GitHub, we're running Qove as a left hook pre-commit, and we're running a subset. So for example, if I modify, say, the checkout part of an application, we'll just run Qove test cases on checkout. Then when it passes that, and it goes to our CI/CD pipeline, we then run a full Qove regression, which is all the user journeys to make sure that nothing else is broken. And it nestles in with, say, existing automations. If you already have some Playwright, Cypress, and Selenium tests, you could still leave them in there. Integration tests as well as unit tests. And we run on pretty much any CI runner. So as long as it supports executing Docker containers, we're good to go. We use GitHub Actions, but it could be used in a variety of them. And this is how Qove learns. So it captures different types of views, events, form inputs, navigation, and also different like page exits as well. And then it's always masked in terms of your personal or like your PII data or PHI data that's collected on your application. So if you have like passwords or authentication, payments, personal identity, contact info, healthcare, any personal details, that's always masked. So what Qove sees is that someone entered in a password, they don't see what the password is. And we honor existing masking rules from all of the leading metrics gathering solutions that are on the market. So if you're already using PostHog and you're using custom mask fields above and beyond the default mask fields, we'll just honor your PostHog mask fields and you don't even need to worry about it. So how Qove actually works is you pull it. So you pull our test runner, you could run it in your pre-commit, your CI/CD. You can then monitor after release inside of our UI. So yeah, it's basically run it wherever you want. You could even run it just as like another type of script too. As long as you could run a Docker container, you could run Qove. That's the objective, and that's how we built it. And it's battle tested on our own product. So kind of like how we talked about before, We have 71 end-to-end Qove tests that run a full regression in around 15 minutes, and it is constantly running every time we go to push code, as well as in our pre-commit. So yeah, the goal is stop wasting time on end-to-end tests where there's many hours a week spent creating and maintaining these test automation suites. And you could install it in minutes, gain intel in days, and hopefully automate forever. So that's Qove.
Awesome. Obviously, that deck was put together a little bit more for a sales presentation, but we wanted to show people kind of what's going on and how this works. But do you have a live demo or anything you could show to show what this looks like in the wild?
Yeah. So first, I'll share what the UI looks like, and then from there, we could actually show what the tests running looks like as well.
And while Justin's bringing that up, if anyone has any questions, technical, business, or otherwise, just drop them in the chat, and we'll address them as they come in.
All right. So when you log in, what you'll see is the getting started. So it's as easy as this to get started. You just copy and paste our snippet into your application. We give you exactly how to do it and copy and paste blocks for all the leading web frameworks. Once you've added it, we take 7 days to learn. And then from there, you could actually pull your test runners and then run your tests. And we give you actually code samples for all the major CI pipelines, as well as the different pre-commit pipelines, and just how to run it locally as well. So that's the super easy way. It's just a 3-step process to get rolling. And now to actually show you what it looks like when a Qove test is executing, I'm going to share my terminal so you can see the logs. And what we're doing here is we're just running a manual test of, say we're searching and adding cat toys on Amazon into the cart. And what you'll see here is our different agents that are running. So you'll first see a test agent start for the first step. And then you're going to see for each test step, there's actually a verification agent that goes and verifies that step has been completed. So it's a browser agent that's actually going to Amazon.com. It's going to enter in the search bar, the keyword. It's going to click the search button. It's going to then look at the page of the search results, add one of those results, and then put that into the cart. So you can see here, we start with the first step, which is executing it. And then you could see, scroll up, you can see the validation. And then you can see here, we prompted the validation agent that we trained to go and execute the validation. And then you can see that the validation is passed. So that is the first test step. And then it keeps going for the next test step and the next test step. So this is nice because it's a simple test, but we're able to do many multi-step tests. So we actually have one inside of Wave that is over 20 test steps. So for that, we have an agent that executes each test step and then a verification for each one as well. So yeah, this is the demo. And then at the end, once it's all executed, you'll see if it passed or failed. If it passed, you're good to go. If it failed, it'll pull the logs for the engineer to go and be able to debug the issue.
And so how much time might this save someone, or what's the real benefit here?
Yeah. So the benefit is a couple different aspects. The first aspect is no one tests like this. In my experience, QA mainly tests off of functional requirements, user stories, test off of technical requirements. They don't take in, say, 2 million user sessions, aggregate those 2 million sessions into 100,000 different user journeys, and then from there, go and execute 100,000 end-to-end tests every time you want to push, a line of code. So first, it's reframing the way you test. Second, it's time saving on executing tests that already exist. This is much more efficient.
And there's also a byproduct for this, right? Like we also provide folks an AI skill. And what does that mean? And what could that actually help provide technical people or the business or marketing folks inside a company?
Yeah, great question. So what we actually provide is like an agent skill, like what Aaron said. And this is an agent skill trained on your user data. So all of your user journeys this skill is trained on. And if you're using Claude, you could easily plug it in. Many other AI tools support skills as well. And say you're a product manager and you want to talk about like what are the user journeys that users are running into. Like we just launched this new feature. How are users using it? Well, there you go. Ask the skill. Or say you're an engineer who's like, you know what? I don't think that this UI design makes sense. I want to go propose something to my product manager to see if we could get this changed. Well, now you could pull the data. Or if you're say like a founder and you're looking to make an investor deck, you're actually like in a tool like Claude, you could just make the deck using the data and the skills pretty easily. So yeah, it's super powerful to hook it into everything.
And how do if people are interested in this, perhaps folks aren't necessarily thinking about this space and this gets people to look into it, they'll find other tools in this industry that are some are startups, some have been around for a little bit. How is Qove different from some of the tools that you've encountered?
Yeah, so I would say Qove is different in 3 ways. We'll first start with how tests originate. Instead of a lot of tools in the market, they have some sort of automation, but they have a QA engineer or product manager. They have someone, actually a human, writing the test cases, all of the test cases. For us, the test cases are derived based off of actual usage, which gives us a scale of test cases that can't be matched. So that's the first thing. The second is we continuously learn off of your platform's usage. And then the third is our browser test and verification agents. So not only is it how we create the tests, how we evolve and learn your application better the longer you use Qove, it's also our actual execution of tests. So you'll see like metrics tools, but they have nothing to do with testing. You'll see test browser agents, but humans are required to actually write the test cases themselves. And then you also have like the way legacy tools, which is, like say like a QA engineer or developer using Cursor or Claude Code to write like Selenium tests faster. But that's not really in the same realm of what we could produce.
Yeah, I know you touched on that point, but we've had a few folks who've shown this to talk about, well, isn't this what Claude Code is doing, or isn't this what Selenium is doing? And can you reinforce how this is different and potentially complementary, or just different from that approach?
Yeah, it's just different. So like Claude Code allows you, and other coding agents too, right? They allow you to write and maintain automated test code faster than ever before. That's 100%. What they don't do is they don't ingress all of your user data. They don't have a browser test agent and verification agent. They don't derive from all of that user data specific user journey test cases to be executed. It's a totally different type of system. So if you have existing test infrastructure, you should be using Claude Code to maintain it. This is just a different type of test infrastructure.
And so if people want to learn more about Qove, they want to try it out, where can they do that?
Yeah, so Qove.ai is our website. It's live, and you could do that. Oh, there we go, popped up on the screen. You could also reach out to me on LinkedIn as well if you want to have like a more in-depth session on it. And I think that's a good way to get started.
As a closer here, Justin, often as you and I bat around ideas, you bring a healthy level of skepticism, trying to poke holes in whatever topic, ideas, businesses, technology, which I think is a healthy way to look at things to make sure that they hold. If you were hearing about this for the first time, what concerns would you have, and what about how you've engineered Qove would potentially, address those concerns?
Yeah, so I think the first thing is, does it actually self-heal? So for example, you download a container and then it executes. Everyone's used to Selenium or Playwright when, say, for example, you move something from like a hamburger bar and you put it to like the nav bar. and you have to update your code, it doesn't just like find it, even though the button is still named add to cart, or something like that. Like that is like there's horror stories of maintaining the Selenium and Playwright code. So people that are used to that, I think there's going to be doubts of will our user journey tests actually be preserved if we don't change the user journeys, but we change things where it's laid out in the UI. So to address that, like that's why we built such robust test agents and verification agents. So the test agent, it actually looks at your UI and it receives a description of what to get done. It doesn't receive selectors. It receives, hey, you're going to have to click the add to cart button to add that cat toy to the cart. So as long as you still have an add to cart button or an add to cart functionality, the agent will pick it up. Even if you change add to cart to something else, like add to bag, for instance, it'll still pick it up. So that is kind of the core functionality behind it. I think the second is, will it actually learn? So that is something where the way we ingress your user journey data and analyze it is essentially that's how we address that. So we ingress your data, we analyze that data, and that's how we derive your user journeys. We don't just kind of have an AI agent poke around and make things up. It's derived exactly from your user data. And in our application, what we're coming out with is citations. So when you click on a test case, you're actually able to see, well, what sessions are referenced here, what session IDs that journey originated from.
Yeah. What would you say to folks who say, why won't Claude Code or Cursor or Selenium just build this?
Well, Claude Code is right. So Claude Code is they're working on making the best coding agent, and they are certainly up there. Like we love using Claude Code every day. Myself and rest of the BFL team. So yeah, I would say definitely keep using Claude Code. It's just different. It's a different methodology. This is really not a solution that is in line with writing code. This is you install a snippet, and then from there we do data-driven test cases. And then the other one you mentioned as well, you said Claude Code and Selenium, right?
Cursor, Selenium, just in general, those playing around in this space. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Selenium is also just universally different, where Selenium's been like building out like MCPs, so it's easier, and skills, so it's easier for like Claude Code and Cursor to write it, but they're a project that's been around for a very long time, and their underlying infrastructure is selector based, not agentic based.
All right. So where do you, if you were to close on like, where do you see this industry headed? What do you think are some of the tools, or how might a tool like Qove evolve, or what are some other tools you think will continue to push the limits of what's possible and make things faster and more efficient?
Yeah. So I think overall the industry will evolve where AI is able to do more of the work. So your traditional QA role isn't going to be needed in the same way that it's needed today, or even 5 years ago, for example. And I think Qove is one of the first big leaps in that. And I think what we'll end up seeing is that companies that are using automated QA are going to be shipping a lot faster and getting market traction, or at least market validation a lot faster. If what they build isn't receptive to users, then it doesn't matter how well you test it. But I guess they'll receive market validation faster than ever and be shipping faster than ever at a quality that they like and are comfortable with. Because right now,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was saying, importantly, underscoring that first stat that you shared, right? Not risking the chance of driving away half the users on their site who might encounter a bug and get frustrated and leave, right? I mean, at the heart of this, it's a better user experience, a better outcome for the business, and a means of getting there that's much, much more cost effective, which we're seeing AI evolve very, very rapidly. And you and I talk a lot about building where we see inevitabilities, and this seems like a very, very clear inevitability. Hopefully Qove's the winner, but I think in general, people should be thinking about tools like this and how they can automate a lot of their workflow to get more done faster. So Justin, thank you so much for joining us on How AI. I I really appreciate it. We'll end on our high five again. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Boom. See you soon.